Hey guys, in today's tutorial I'll be teaching you how to crochet a ribbed top with functional buttons. So this top can actually open up, and I will be showing you how to make it with this one strap method, but if you're interested in the two straps so you can create a bow, I'll explain that as well. It's pretty similar. It would look like this one here. So I didn't tie the bow that cute on this one, but I do like the look of it. It just takes much more work because you do have to create 4 straps instead of 2. Overall, this top is pretty easy to make because it's just a single crochet the entire way through. It's just that you have to go into the back loops only. So if you're interested in making one of these tops, I'll let you know what you'll need in the next couple clips. I'll be using a crochet hook in the size 5mm. I'll be using the big twist yarn in the color dark denim. This does have 380 yards in here. I am a size large, extra large, so I did take up more than half of this yarn. You may need more or less depending on your size and also how long you want your top and how tight you want it. I made mine more on the tighter side, so that's why I took up a little bit less. Also, you can use any yarn you want, but if you are going to be using the big twist, I just want to let you know that it says you cannot tumble dry this. You have to dry it flat, but I'm going to tumble dry mine and see what happens. But remember, use any yarn you want. For the length of my top, I will be using 5 buttons. You're also going to need some thread and a threading needle. Try to choose something that's similar to the color of your buttons. I only have black, so this is what I'll be using. The last thing we'll need are some scissors. The first thing we need to do is create a slip knot. So take your yarn, and I like to hold mine in half. Also, I am right-handed, so I'm going to take this part of the yarn and I'm just going to twist it, and then with this hand I'm just going to poke my hands through to grab this yarn and pull it straight through. And there is our slip knot. So now I'm going to take my hook, insert it inside the knot, and tighten it up. We're now going to create a chain. So what you want to do is yarn over your hook and pull straight through. Once again, yarn over and pull straight through. So the number you chain is going to depend on how long you want your top to be. So how much do you want to show of your skin? I'm going to chain mine a chain of 41, so it's not too long and not too short. So I'll be back after I chain 41. Once you finish crocheting your chain and you determine how long you want your top to be, what we're now going to do is single crochet. So this whole top is going to be a single crochet, so it's really easy. And now we're just going to work on a row 2. So we're going to go back all the way to the other side. So since I started with a chain of 41, I'm going to end up with 40 because we're going into the chain that's the second from the hook. So you can see, well, it's a little bit hard because I'm using a dark blue, but you can see that this chain is right next to the hook and we never go into that. We're actually going to go into the one next to it. So let me see if I can get a better view. Okay, so I'm going into the second one here now, and I'm doing my single crochet. So that means I'm just going through and taking some of this yarn. I have my 2 loops on the hook. I have to yarn over one more time and pull straight through. So that's a single crochet, and I'm going to do that all the way through until I end up on the other side. So I'll show that again. I'm going straight into the stitch or the next chain, pulling some of this yarn through, yarning over and pulling through both loops. My yarn is squeaky today, or my hook is squeaky, but now I'm going to continue doing that until I reach the other side. I've made it back down my chain and this is what it looks like. So if yours curls up a little bit, all you have to do is just tug on it and that will help straighten it out. So now working on our second row, or our next row, I'm just going to insert my hook back into the loop. And so you can see I'm at the end here. So what I want to do now is chain 1, which is just yarning over my hook, pulling through. Then I'm going to turn my work. So I'm turning it this way, so this is our back side. So to create our rib, we want to single crochet into the back loop only. Also, you do not want to go into this corner stitch right here. So you can see this would be the first one, the first stitch, but we don't want to go into that. We're going into this second one here, and now we're going into the back loop only. So to go into the back loop, you can see here's my stitch. Now normally we would go in straight into the whole thing, right? So it would look like that. But to go into the back loop, so my project is currently facing us. So to go into the back loop, all you have to go through is straight through that stitch. And then pull the yarn through and you single crochet. I felt like it might have been a little bit hard to see with the dark blue, so I am going to show you with a lighter blue yarn as well. So now that I made it back down my chain, all I have to do is yarn over and pull through, turn my work. So every time you reach a corner, you have to yarn over, pull through, and then turn your work. So remember I said don't go into this corner stitch here. you want to go into the second one, and then we're going into the back loop only. So here is the stitch from the top view. All you have to do is go straight through the middle and do a single crochet. So to show you that again, I'm going from the top view. You want to go straight through the middle into the back, grab some of that yarn over and pull through. Now one more time. So here's the top view. You're going into the middle, straight through the back. Then you yarn over and pull through. And then you want to continue doing that until you reach the end. I've made it back to the end of this row, but before we continue on, I do want to mention a couple things. So remember, I started off with a chain of 41, but I now have a stitch count of 40 because we went into the second chain from the hook. So if you chained 35, that means you now have 34. So to not get confused when you're counting this, in case you are trying to keep track, you do count the chain 1 as a stitch. So the chain 1 is a stitch. To create the width of this top, all you have to do is repeat those steps where you just chain 1, turn your work, and single crochet into the back loop only. So I will show you that one more time. Start it off, we have to chain 1, turn our work. Now this is our front piece, so we're going into the back loop only. Do not go into this corner stitch. You want to go into that next one. Here's my top view. I'm going into the middle of the stitch, straight through the back. I pulled some of that yarn through, yarn over, and pull through. That is a single crochet. So you want to continue doing that until you reach your desired width or how tight or loose you want to make your top. I just finished crocheting the width of my top. Do not cut off your yarn yet because we do need to do a couple more rows, but I'm going to close this to show you what it looks like. This right here is the bottom of my top, and as you can see, I still have my yarn attached. We still need this because we need to create the holes for the buttons. On this side is where we're going to place the buttons, and this is where the original chain was. Here are my 5 buttons. They don't completely match, but this is all I have, so I'm just going to place it where I think it'll look nice. This is where I decided to place my button. I will lift up this corner piece. So as you can see, I will place this button closer to the ridge of, well, in between these ridges here, and then it is closer to the edge of the top. So if you are going to be placing your button here, that means you might need to crochet a couple more rows so it can fit you properly. But I'm going to sew one button on camera and then I'll do the rest off because it does take me a while. I'm literally the worst person to teach you how to sew on a button, but I assume most people know how to do this. If you don't, I'm going to try my best to explain. So after you put your thread through the needle, you just want to take your 2 end pieces, so this right here, and then we're just going to create a couple of knots so it doesn't fully pull through our yarn. So what I'm going to do is just tie a knot. So it's kind of similar to the slip knot, but you have your 2 end pieces. What am I doing? Okay, and then you just want to tie a knot. So that was 1 knot. You see, it's really tiny, so you have to do that a couple times. So I had an idea. So now that you tied 1 knot, what you can do is just take your 2 end pieces here and just keep tying it. So keep tying that until you get a thick enough knot. So that portion probably didn't help anybody, but now let's sew on our button. So I'm going to take my needle and put it through the back of the top. And then I'm going to put my button in one of these. I'm really scared of needles, so this is why I'm doing it this way. And then when I pull it through, I'm not going to pull it all the way where that knot was. So let me show you. Okay, so you can see this is where my knot is, and I'm not going to pull it there because I don't want the chance of it pulling straight through. So I'm just going to leave this much room at the end. And then I'm going to go back into one of the holes. So this one here, and just go straight through the back. Now I'm going to try to go back into one of the other holes from the back side. Honestly, I don't care which one it goes into as long as it goes into something. And then now I'm just going to go back into the next one. And it's literally just doing that until it tightens up. Okay, so I just spent like 30 minutes sewing on this button, but now I'm going to show you how I close mine off. So I'm just going to cut off the thread. And then remember how I told you I didn't pull through like all the way to the knot? So I still have this long piece. What I do now is just tie these two pieces together to secure it some more. So I'm just going to make a couple knots with this thread. So there is one knot. I'm just going to tighten it up. I'll probably do like 2 more.
Okay, now I'm just going to cut off this excess thread. And then there's one button. So I'm going to take a couple more hours to sew on the rest of them, and then I'll be back.
Sewing on those buttons literally took forever, and I got poked a couple times, so I'm totally over this portion. It's not sewn on the best, but now we're going to work on the holes. So I'm going to go back to the side where the yarn is attached. I'm now just going to insert my hook through the loop, and then I'm going to yarn over my hook and chain 1. Then I'm turning my work so it's back this way. And then we're going to start single crocheting. Portion, I'm not going into the back loop only. I'm going to go straight through the entire stitch, so it's just a normal single crochet. But again, we don't go into that corner stitch there. So I'm going straight into the stitch, and I'm just doing a single crochet. So I'm going to do a single crochet until I reach the bottom of this button. So I'll show you that now. So I single crocheted twice because that's where this button would fit right underneath. So it's just going to end at the bottom, and then I want to chain 2. It's going to depend on how big your button is. Mine is not too big, so I will chain 2. And then I'm going to skip 1, 2, and go into the third one. And then you can take it out, and then you can see how it fits into the button. So you can always adjust how many you chain. So does this fit? Yes, it does. So then you want to continue doing that until you reach the other side. I'm going to show that part one more time. I'm going to leave my button in that loop. I'm going to single crochet until I reach the bottom of the other button. Now here I'm at the bottom of this button, so again I'm chaining 2. So whatever you chain, you want to skip those 2. So since I chained 2, I'm skipping those 2, and then I'm going to single crochet into the third one. And then I can take it out and test to see if the button fits. And it does, so now I'll continue going through the rest of this. I made it all the way back to the top, so all of my buttons are in place. And if you want to make this portion thicker, you can remove this part right here. And then you can crochet all the way back down, but I'm just going to leave it like this because I don't mind how thin it is. So I'm just going to put the button back in. What you need to do next is just cut off some excess yarn. Make sure you leave enough so we can sew it back into our project so we can make it secure. But once you cut off the thread, what you're going to do is just take the yarn and put it through this loop and then just pull. So that will secure it one way, and then you're going to turn your work so you can sew on the inside. Well, not sew, but we're just going to secure it in. So I'm just going to find a stitch closest to where the yarn currently is, and I'm going to poke it into this side. Make sure you poke it into the right side. So let me just take off this button. So I'm gonna sew it on to this piece, taking this yarn, pulling it through one of these stitches, And don't pull it all the way through. What you want to do now is just, you have your loop, you take this part of your yarn, pull it through, so similar to what we just did at the top. And then you want to make sure you have it really secure. So I'm going to do it a couple more times, but I'm going to go lower into the top so nothing pokes through on the outside. So I'm just going to go into this next one here. Once you secure your top, you can cut off the excess piece of yarn. And then this is what it looks like on the outside. Also, bottom portion, this is where the yarn was when we originally started our chain. You just want to do the same thing and then find a piece where you can crochet it onto and then secure it that way, and then cut off the excess piece of yarn. Hey guys, it's actually a couple days later because I couldn't finish filming everything in one day, so I'm here again to teach you how to attach the straps. So as you can see, I've already attached one strap and my nails are actually a different color now, but for the strap portion, I will teach you how to do the one where it's attached to both sides and it's just one single piece. But then I also will explain to you how to do the other method if you do want the bow attachment. So this one is actually two pieces. Let me remove this. So it's basically just two straps and then you can connect it together. So I will show you this one, but it's basically the same thing. It's just that you have to stop at a certain point. The first thing we need to do is determine where we want our strap placement. So mine is placed 11 stitches from where this button is. I do recommend maybe like 9 or 10 instead, because mine is a little bit further from where my shoulder, where I would like it to be, because it might fall off. But you can again adjust it to how you would like it. Just don't go too far out or else it's just going to fall off your shoulders. Once you figured out where you want to attach your strap, you just now need to take your yarn and your hook and then find wherever you're going to place it. So I'm going to place mine right here. I'm just going to insert my hook through the stitch, take some of this yarn through, and now I'm going to tie a knot. Make sure you leave some excess yarn so we can sew it in later, but a knot is just, pretty simple. Take it through the loop and tie it. Next, we want to create a chain, so I'm just going to take my hook again and insert it into that same stitch, take some of this yarn through. And then for our chain, it's going to depend on how long you want yours. So either way, if you're making the 2-strap or this one here, we're starting it off the same with the chain. So a chain is yarning over and pulling through. I'll be doing a chain of 55 because I've already measured this to myself. So if you're doing the 2-strap, make sure yours is longer so you can make a bow. If you're doing the 1-strap here, make sure you just measure it to yourself so it just fits perfectly. And remember, yarn does stretch out, or at least the one I'm using. So just make sure you adjust it to yourself. So I'm going to chain my 55, so that's just yarning over and pulling through. I currently have a chain of 55, but before I continue on with the 1-strap method, I'll explain the 2-strap. So if you're going to be doing the 2-strap with the bow, what you're going to do now after you finish your chain, you're actually going to single crochet all the way back down until you reach the front of the top. So in case you forgot, to go back, you don't go into that first stitch closest to the hook, you go into the second one, and you'll be working with a single crochet. So you just insert your hook through that yarn, and then now I'm going to yarn over and pull through. So that's a single crochet, which is what we've been doing the whole time with the top. So you're just going to go all the way back down if you're doing the 2-strap method. If you're doing the 2-strap method and you're confused on how to end it right here, I will put a timestamp of when I'll be showing that, because it's going to be the same with this 1-strap, but I'll put a timestamp of when you can skip to. Alrighty, for my people who are doing the 1-strap method, what we're going to do now is take our chain and attach it to the back piece. So I personally just measure it up and place it side by side and find the stitch there. If you want to be 100% accurate, you can count your stitches, but I'm not going to do that because honestly I don't really care too much. So I'm just going to measure it up, and when I place it flat down, it matches up with this stitch here. So what I'm going to do is just take my chain and the hook into that stitch, and then I'm going to take the yarn and we're going to create a slip stitch. So you just have to pull the yarn through both of the loops. And then now you want to single crochet into the stitch after it. So this one here, that's a single crochet. And then I'm going to turn my work. So this is currently facing us. I'm going to turn it to the back now, because we want to single crochet back into our chain just so we can make a little bit of a thicker strap. So Let me adjust this really quick. Okay, so now I'm just going to single crochet all the way back until I make it to the other side, and I'll just show a couple of those. Okay, so I just made it back to where the strap is attached to this front piece. So if you are with the double strap method, so we're going to end the same here. You just want to single crochet into the next stitch after where you stitch into that first stitch there. So this is where I originally stitched. I'm going into the next one here. And I'm just doing a single crochet. So there's my 2 loops, yarning over and pulling through. And then I'm going to pull my yarn so I can have some excess so I can sew it on to the top later. But now I just want to cut this yarn. And then I'm going to take, oops, almost pulled it all the way through. I'm just going to take this piece and insert it inside this loop. This is one way we can secure it. And then I'm going to turn it inside, and you can see here we have the original yarn from when we first started the chain, and this is where we ended off. So I usually like to tie these 2 pieces together. So just a normal knot. And then what I do is I like to sew it, well, not sew it, but I attach it to this line here. So I'm just going to take my hook, take this yarn, pull it in there, and then I'll tie it a couple more times. Because if you cut it off right here, it might come undone. So I just like to do a couple more knots. Okay, so as you can see, I went down a little bit, and now with this excess piece of yarn, I'm just going to cut it off. And you have to do that again. If you're doing the 1 strap method, you just have to do that 1 more time. So if you're doing the 2 strap method, you'll have to do that 4 times. 1 here, 1 at the back, 1 here, and at the back here. So let me show you the other one I have. So if you're doing the 2 strap method, of course you'll need 4 pieces. You know, you have to make your bow at the top here. So here's my first 2 pieces, and then this is the one with the bow on it. So if you're doing the 4 strap method, it's actually really cute. It's just going to be a little bit more work since you do have to make 4 of these in total. Once you finish attaching all of your straps, you now have your very own button-up rib top, and I really love this one. I think I like it even more than the crochet bralette I made because I like more coverage. So for my next one, I'm definitely going to make it even longer. So I'm really excited to do this again. And if you guys like this video or you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one.